All right, fellow classic cinema lovers, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer. We've got something incredibly exciting lined up. We are counting down the top 15 Western movies of all time. But look, we're not just gonna rattle off a list of old favorites here. We're actually tracking exactly how this beloved genre completely transformed on screen. I mean, you've probably noticed it, right? How these stories shifted from those traditional clear-cut hero myths into these dark, gritty tales of intense human conflict. Well, we're gonna explore exactly how that happened, film by film.
To set the stage, let's look at this definition that really nails the vibe of the classic era. The Wild West, a land of gunslingers, revenge, honor, and legends. As huge movie fans, we know this setup like the back of our hands. It's literally the ultimate canvas for exploring human morality. Out there on the frontier, totally stripped of modern society's laws and comforts, a character's true nature just bubbles to the surface. They're forced to make these raw, completely unfiltered moral choices.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, Defining the Wild West, and looking at the foundation of the Western story. Starting our countdown at number 15, we can immediately see the genre transitioning. We start with the outlaw Jose Wales, where a deeply scarred Civil War survivor turns to the outlaw life, but ultimately just seeks peace. Then at 14, we get the absolute classic High Noon. We all know this one. A marshal faces impending danger entirely alone while his whole town just turns its back on him. But then notice the massive shift at number 13 with 310 to Yuma. Here, a regular struggling rancher is basically forced by economic hardship to escort a lethal outlaw. And by number 12, with Dead Man, the whole genre just shifts gears into this poetic, almost hallucinatory black and white journey toward death. We are clearly moving way beyond traditional honor and duty and stepping right into gritty human conflicts. This comparison right here brilliantly illustrates the shifting moral landscapes that really started to define the era. Take High Noon. It presents the solitary, clear-cut duty of a marshal. It's that classic, traditional hero standing tall against evil, driven by a strict moral code. But then you contrast that with 310 to Yuma. That gives us this incredibly tense, complicated journey of a desperate rancher who's trapped alongside a charismatic killer. Suddenly, the moral lines are totally blurred. The hero isn't some flawless icon wearing a shiny badge anymore. He's literally just a flawed guy trying to survive, make a few bucks, and do whatever it takes to feed his family in an unforgiving world.
Moving right along to Section 2, Justice, Vengeance, and Survival, where we look at the internal struggle in harsh landscapes. Now hitting spots 11 through 9, justice gets incredibly complicated, and honestly, the sweeping, unforgiving environment becomes a crucial character all on its own. At 11, Django Unchained is driven by a freed slave seeking righteous revenge, and the brutal, bloody reality of his world perfectly mirrors his internal rage. Then at 10, True Grit totally strips away that hardened cowboy trope to show a young, determined girl relentlessly hunting her father's killer through this bitter, freezing winter terrain. I mean, you can practically feel the cold biting through the screen. And at number 9, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, we get the tragic, dusty reality of a lawman forced by changing times to hunt down his own old friend. The barren landscapes in these films are just brutal, and they perfectly match the internal agony of the characters. Which brings us to Section 3, Truth versus Legend, and the death of the traditional hero myth. Okay, we've arrived at a massive turning point in our countdown. Coming in at number 8 is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. This quote sums it up perfectly. It's a story of truth versus legend. Directed by the legendary John Ford, this is a movie that literally challenges the Western genre itself. It explicitly pits the romanticized, honorable myth of the West right up against the harsh, unglamorous truth of how that West was actually won, through violence and political maneuvering. It asks us this fascinating question: when the legend becomes fact, do we print the legend, or do we finally face the gritty reality? Let's check out spots 7 and 6, where this cinematic deconstruction builds even further. These films completely strip away the focus on legendary, larger-than-life gunslingers. Instead, they focus entirely on raw, interconnected human stories and pure survival. Number 7, Winchester 73, cleverly uses a single rifle changing hands to connect multiple disparate lives, showing how violence cascades across the frontier. And then number 6, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, shifts the focus purely to the desperate struggle of a business rising in a frontier town. It completely trades traditional heroism for, well, unadulterated capitalism and survival. Notice how it specifically highlights a harsh town for McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
We're not looking at the glorious sun-drenched canyons of Monument Valley here, guys. This town is muddy, it's freezing, it's relentlessly bleak. The physical environment perfectly reflects the gritty, internal human struggles of trying to build something, anything, in an entirely unforgiving, lonely place where Mother Nature is honestly just as dangerous as the outlaws.
All right, here we go. Section 4, the ultimate Western masterpieces. This is the final classic countdown.
We've made it to the absolute peak of the genre. Kicking off our top 5 is Sergio Leone's defining epic, Once Upon a Time in the West. It's described here as a slow, powerful cinematic masterpiece. And as fellow film lovers, you and I know that this deliberate, agonizingly slow pacing isn't just for style points. It's exactly what builds that unbelievable tension within these vast, empty landscapes. It forces us to sit with these deeply flawed characters as they calculate their next ruthless moves. You're sitting there listening to nothing but the creaking of a windmill or the buzzing of a fly, just waiting for the violence to inevitably erupt. Coming in at number 4, we have a film that completely flips the script on who we actually root for.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This iconic film brings us outlaws on the run, but with such an unforgettable twist. It's the ultimate showcase of shifting moral lines and pure human survival. The world around them is changing, industrialization is creeping in, the frontier is rapidly closing, our anti-heroes are no longer charting a wild territory, they're just desperately trying to outrun the inevitable march of modern time.
Now for number 3, we are officially entering the realm of the absolute titans of the genre.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Here we have 3 incredibly dangerous men racing for buried treasure against the explosive, senseless backdrop of the Civil War. In this film, they completely abandon the traditional selfless hero myth. Every single action is driven by pure, gritty self-interest and greed. I mean, the title itself is almost a joke, right? Because morality here is entirely subjective. There is no real good, just different shades of survival in a world completely gone mad.
Just missing the top spot is number 2. And this is perhaps the darkest and most psychologically complex film on our entire list. The Searchers. This film gives us a harrowing, years-long journey of obsession. It perfectly demonstrates how sprawling, harsh landscapes mirror a character's unyielding internal struggle. John Wayne steps far, far away from his typical clean-cut hero persona here. Instead, the vastness of the desert is just as empty, punishing, and unrelenting as his protagonist's dark, deeply flawed quest for vengeance. And finally, taking the number 1 spot in our explainer, the film that serves as the ultimate conclusion to the era of the Wild West. Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, a retired, aging gunslinger returns for one last job. This film is the absolute culmination of our journey today. Eastwood completely dismantles the clean-cut hero myth that he himself helped build over his career, replacing it with this morally complex, incredibly grim reality. Here, violence isn't glorious or heroic. It has profound, devastating, and ugly consequences on the soul. It is the perfect, gritty capstone to the traditional myth of the Wild West, showing the undeniably heavy toll of a life lived by the gun. So as we wrap up and you reflect on this incredible cinematic evolution, from the clear-cut, honorable myths to the messy, gritty truth of human conflict, it leaves us with a pretty profound question. Which of these moral landscapes reflects reality better? Do we need the fantasy of the lone righteous marshal to inspire us? Or does the flawed, morally ambiguous outlaw teach us more about ourselves? Let us know which film from this list is your absolute favorite and why. Drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more explainers.